which is a steel icebreaker, Brady.
Whoa! All right. All right.
His title. Hi.
All right. Okay.
Oh.
Wow. All right.
They
Oh,
can make you
Oh,
relax a
thank
little bit.
I'm not yet relaxed. I have to go third. I've been sweating.
I'm as nervous as you do, believe me. So don't worry about that. Because Brady, I met Brady 2 years ago.
Roughly, almost.
Yeah. And he's a very gentle and work hard gentleman. I very like his personality is so much. Yes, he's funny, and also he's so handsome.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Ellen, and thank you, everybody. I'm going to turn this on. I tried not to prepare anything, but as you're going to find, I prepared probably a little bit too much, which is going to be the sort of the narrative of my speech today. Before I start, I want to first tell Ellie I have a natural cadence where I say all the time. So this is going to be your Super Bowl situation.
You're the winner.
I also just want to say I did not know that I needed to give a title to my speech. And I think that will be pretty aligned with the speech that I'm going to give anyway. So, first and foremost, my name is Brady Murphy, and thank you everyone for allowing me to talk to you all today. I also want to give a special thumbs up to Jeff in absentia, who was the icebreaker last week, because he gave a really good icebreaker and it set a really good example, for what to do during an icebreaker. But I also want to give a big thumbs down to Jeff for making me be the person who goes after him, and you as well, Alex, having to go after Jeff for that good speech. Today for my speech, I really want to talk just about the process I went through to come up with an icebreaker, frankly. And I think in the process, you're going to find a little bit about me and my personality. Sound good?
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So, after I committed to doing this last week, a timer flipped in my brain right away. I knew exactly how many minutes and hours and seconds until I was going to be doing this right now. I did not know I'd be going third. And I only had Jeff's speech as a reference. So
No, that's not a good one.
no, it wasn't. So I started my my icebreaker attempt by just going through a whole list of my biography.
Yeah.
Started from the beginning. So I wrote about how I'm one of 7 kids, all born within 9 years, no twins. My poor mother. I wrote about how my family left LA and how I spent my teenage years in the state of Wisconsin, of all places. I wrote about how in the summers, my best friend's family would take us up to Lake Superior and we would go looking for rocks called rock hounding, and how I've developed a lifelong interest in gemstones and looking for rocks. I even wrote about how I was named the Northwest Player of the Year as a high school running back, and how later I learned I really didn't even like football when I quit the sport in college. But when I stopped and I read everything that I had written, none of it really quite clicked. Frankly, felt a little stale and just not very interesting. So I started over. This time I decided to focus more on the colorful parts of my biography. So I wrote about how I discovered a treasure chest full of gold coins embedded in a riverbank one time. And how in 7th grade, my friend Ryan dared me to drink the little beaker labeled toxic, and how it turned me into a frog for a whole week. And then I wrote about how the time my brother and I went fishing in the deepest lake in Wisconsin, and I caught a megalodon shark, which I threw back, which showed amazing fortitude. And I also wrote about the time I saw Bigfoot do a cartwheel in a cornfield. And I wrote at least 10 pages on the time I was abducted by aliens. And after I wrote all of that, I wrote in all caps how one of my dreams growing up was to be a famous fiction writer. But once I stopped and looked over everything, it still didn't feel quite right to me. So maybe I thought, I'm just trying a little too hard, maybe less is more. So I started over yet again. And this time I wanted to focus less on just a laundry list of what I've done, and really more on like the poignant, meaningful things that have happened in my life. So I wrote a whole speech about the time I was paid $3,000 to drive a 2-seater vintage Mercedes from New York to San Francisco in 3 days.
Wow.
I wrote about how I don't really celebrate my birthday because that was the day my mother's twin sister passed, and how my mother was never quite the same or normal after that. And then I wrote about what it was like as a 19-year-old to get a Facebook message from a girl that I'd met the previous summer telling me that you're a dad, and what it was like to meet my son as a 19-year-old. And then after I wrote all of that, I wrote a big speech about my family and why I haven't spoken to my dad in years. So in each, after I took a step back, you know, I just looked at everything I'd written, I just pressed delete. Nothing I had written seemed to really feel complete or correct, and it just seemed a little bit too much and too little all at once. And then I just realized, geez, it's really hard to tell a story, you know, especially if it's your own story. So finally, I did what I just told myself I wasn't going to do at the beginning, which is I turned to the internet for inspiration. So I went to YouTube, typed icebreaker in, pressed enter, and after 45 minutes of watching very large ships crash through ice in Arctic waters, closed the computer, and I just felt that overwhelming sense that I get so often recently, which is the internet was a mistake, and we are on a dangerous path that we cannot control. All of this happened over the last week, okay? All of this happened over the last week. And then when Saturday came, I was like, I need a break from this icebreaker obsession. So I spent the day with my nephews, spent the day away from my thoughts. And by the time Sunday rolled around, I realized I had found direction after all. Because what better way to introduce myself to y'all by kind of telling you my tortured process of trying to do what I'm doing to you right now, which is giving you my icebreaker. So thank you very much. This is my speech. Appreciate it.